Right, continuing with our coverage of the Igbonla school kidnap. It's 21 days on now. The 6 boys abducted from the Lagos State Model College Igbonla Epe have spent exactly 3 weeks in captivity.
When will they regain their freedom? It's the big question everyone is asking. We have in the studio the National Coordinator, Education Rights Campaign, Hassan Taiwo. It's good to have you in the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, at this time where people are getting more confused as to what the security agencies are doing, what the state of the boys are, and all of that, those of you who are in the space of creating more awareness and enhancing rights, what roles do you play in this space?
Well, I must say that, unfortunately, the issue of the kidnap of those children have received very far little attention from civil society organizations and from those who should be calling public attention to this issue. And I think that partly is because Nigeria has become a country where on a daily basis disasters have become a part of our life, so that somehow people have grown a thick skin. But I must say that despite the adversity that surrounds us in this country, we must continue to realize that we must not at any time relent, which is why I think that the case of the Epe School kidnap must become the beginning of a national campaign against the criminality that exists in our society. And now it affects education of our children, because children must have an environment in school, on the way to school, outside of school, that does not threaten their interest in education, that does not in any way discourage them. So that when you then have a situation where children are being picked up in schools almost on a frequent basis, then before we know it, you are beginning to create a situation where the entire call by government for children to take more interest in education will be defeated. So for me, I think that this is something that organizations like the Education Rights Campaign, even the labor unions, must take up in the coming period. But beyond that, and this is where the question must be addressed, we need to ask ourselves, why has kidnap, not just of children, but even of adults, of just any citizen in this country, become almost a daily occurrence?
Well, that's a question nobody really has been able to
big question.
Give us answers to. Now, you talk about the civil society organizations and their lackluster engagement when it comes to the issue of the kidnapping of these students. What do you really expect them to be doing?
We must engage the government. We must insist that the process of rescuing them, which the Commissioner of Police and other security agencies have publicly, promised, must be made open to certain stakeholders in society. Because we have had situations, several in this country, where this kind of kidnap occurs. The police claim publicly they are on top of the situation. And what happens eventually? Nothing happens.
So what you're saying is that you're not confident in the capacity or capability of the police to actually rescue not only these children, but to maybe even reduce kidnapping in Lagos State. Of course, Ambode, the governor of Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode, has promised to do everything that's humanly possible to ensure that these kids are rescued, hale and hearty. Are you saying you're not confident in that?
We are not. Because we must remember that just a few days ago, somebody called the king of kidnappers was caught. And when you look at all of the narratives that has developed from that incident, you begin to realize that kidnapping in this country has become a big business that involves so much persons in the top echelons of the police and other security agencies. Because just look at that story. We have had a situation where every single victim of that individual paid a ransom. And all of these cases were in the news, with police claiming they were on top of the situation, they are going to get them rescued, nobody's going to pay any ransom. But if you saw the report from that incident, you realize that in most cases, the police only deceived the public while the families were left, to actually deal with the kidnappers and raise the money. Now, the Epe School kidnap, why it has become so intractable is because many of those parents and relatives of the victims are incapable of raising the sums that have been asked of them.
Are the parents themselves not even, adding to the complication that is this Epe school kidnapping? You were talking about the parents paying ransom and all of that, and I was wondering, I mean, you hear the police every now and again say it is not advisable for parents to, or anyone to pay ransom to the kidnappers. It only ends up encouraging them. Now, the parents in this Igbonla case seem to have lost confidence in the police and indeed the state government, saying that government has left them to their own devices. Are they not further complicating issues for these children?
We can't blame the parent, because for the parents, their singular objective is to get their children back. It is the government that must demonstrate that it is capable of fulfilling its constitutional responsibility of safeguarding the lives of citizens in this country. And that must start, from the police showing to the parents that they are actually capable of getting the children back safe and sound. Now, we must also address an issue, which is that we are facing in this country an existential crisis. And the kidnap cases that we have been seeing over the years are just a symptom of that. Society is turning against itself. And why? It is because when you have thousands of university graduates, no jobs, then what would they take to? They would take to crimes. They would take to this kind of things. You have in Lautech, for instance, students who have not gone to school in the last 13 months because two state governors are incapable of funding a single university. These are the issues. So that, for me, I think that beyond rescuing those children, the government itself must realize that the only way to curb kidnapping and other crimes is for it to begin to address the social issues of unemployment, of lack of education and lack of opportunities.
All right, we'll come back to this. Now, we spoke, if you watch our earlier report, we spoke to some of the parents, and they had something to say that brought another dimension to things. Let's play that back so we can get along with the discussion.
They are telling us those children were kidnapped from Lagos State Government School, so they have no business with parents.
So let them reality show. It is serious business. Our kids are missing.
All right, have you heard the first, one of the parents there says that the attention or what these people want is the government, not even the parents themselves, so using the children like a bait. If we see from that window, how complicated do you think this issue is?
It's just like Boko Haram that picked Chibok girls, not for any reason but to begin to negotiate with government some respite. It's the same thing we have seen with the Niger Delta militant over the years. They blow oil pipelines, they pick expatriates, not just for ransom, but also to negotiate. Which is why I say we face an existential crisis. Government has created a situation where the mass majority of people live in penury, and they see on the other side just a few bunch of politicians and business people living in opulence. There's no way we are not going to have this kind of disasters on our hands.
All right, I want to follow up on this because I like to put things in perspective so people can... The state government has said they will not negotiate with terrorists. That's already understandable. Now, the parents are saying, we don't have enough money, we don't even have the monies to pay ransom from what the kidnappers are saying. So if we have, and then it seems, because the parents are also accusing the state government of neglecting them. So the whole jam, the students that have been kidnapped are just in the middle. Are we seeing any time soon that these children will be released in that case?
It's impossible to predict. I also know from experience, historical experience of this country, that government often says something publicly and they will do something differently outside of the media glare. So we don't know what would happen. But my open call this morning is that those children must be rescued alive and sound through whatever means possible, because they are the future of this country. But beyond rescuing them, we also need to be addressing the issues that led to this. Otherwise, after this, you are going to have other cases. Don't forget that from information, even that school, this is like the second time or so that it is experiencing this kind of situation. And there is also the question around what sort of security, what sort of government presence exists in communities, semi-rural or rural communities in Lagos. Because that is where the entire so-called mega-city project in Lagos becomes a rich man agenda, whereby the whole agenda is to develop a few areas where the rich consider their own routes, while for many people in the inner city and rural areas, rural communities or semi-rural communities are completely left to their fate. Yes, I understand that the terrain, the creeks and co that surrounds that area could make things a bit difficult. But it's also, we must also understand that other places on the island are also surrounded by water and all of that. And somehow government has been able to provide. You're bringing a totally different dimension to all of this. Well, let's narrow it down to the discussion here. Otherwise, you know, we could talk about so many other issues. Now, the child rights law and executive order on safeguarding and child protection policy, and of course we had the Safe Schools initiative put in place, you know, under the last administration. Now, with Education Rights Campaign, your own organization, how exactly are you interfacing with schools to ensure that schools are actually safe in terms of the proactive measures that you're taking? What we do for us in the Education Rights Campaign is, as our name conveys, to campaign. Because we understand that we have a government that has no interest in fulfilling constitutional responsibilities towards public education. So would it really be fair to say that, in all honesty, especially Lagos State, for example, Osun State, for example, and a few other states that one could name? I mean, one is not trying to defend government, but a total... I completely like that question, because Lagos State is a state that conveys the sense outside that it is doing something. But he who feels it knows it. There are many public schools in this Lagos State, primary school, secondary, where there are not more than 7 teachers with over 150, 200 pupils. We work directly with activists on the ground who see the conditions of schools. We visit some of these schools. So that, and when you go to Osun, it's a complete fiasco in terms of the education sector there. Or your state, don't even go there. What we are seeing in the southwest is a complete devastation of the free education policy and legacy that was laid in the first and second republic. Is it a failure of free education? Is it free education that has failed?
But the point there is that over the years we've seen effort by some of this. In fact, from statistics, the southwest states are the ones even in the forefront of championing this course of revamping education and ensuring that education gets to meet up with the SDGs or even MDG when it was MDG.
You know that in the community of, I don't want to use something that could be, but where you have failures grouped together, there's a way one will still try to stand out. Outside of Southwest, when you go to the Southeast, Northeast, you cannot even begin to talk about education because they are completely at the lower rung of the ladder. When we want to measure our progress in the Southwest, which is why I mentioned First, Second Republic, we must measure our own progress with our past. That's how you realize that things have gone completely absurd.
Okay, let's not deviate too much. Let's come back to the issue on ground now. When it comes to engagement between what government is doing to ensure these children are rescued, engagement between them and the parents who are the direct you know, have direct links with these children. What kind of interface should be there where parents, the right to know what you're doing for my children and what you're doing on behalf of my children, and then the concept of security, you know, and all of that. What dimension should it take?
There must be, for my own layman, I'm a security expert, you know, I'm an activist. But from my own layman point of view, I think that when this kind of disaster happens, there must be a crisis room or that constantly updates the parents, that can provide that up, at which the parents can often gather to hear the government or its representative on a daily basis or weekly basis, addressing them as to the progress they are making in the investigation. Because this idea of police were on top of the situation and there's no way of even knowing, I mean, what they are doing. We have seen crisis situation in different other countries. Yeah,
but police will tell you that, you know, there's intelligence involved, and giving out certain sensitive information may be counterproductive in the recovery or rescue of these children. Now, Education Rights Campaign, have you had any kind of contact with these particular parents?
No, we have not.
Okay.
We have not. But what we have done is to issue public statement, identifying with the condition, you know, of those parents and the victim of this kidnap, and calling on government. But beyond that, there's little we can actually do in terms of interfacing with parents. I think that the best organizations like ourselves can do is to keep the issue on the public space, to ensure, because you know what happens in this country is that when one disaster happens and we are concentrating on it, then 2 days after, something bigger happens, so that is pushed into the back pages of the paper. But those who are at the center of the crisis continue to feel the issue. Yeah. So what we can do, and I'm using the opportunity to also urge all other organizations and the labor unions, is to come in, organize rallies, activities, and this is where we must also learn from the example of the Bring Back Our Girls, you know, in Abuja, which helps to keep pressure permanently on the government.
All right, this question before we'll let you go now. When it comes to this kind of rights, are they justiciable enough to say, I want to sue government for putting my children in a school and then under your custody, the children were kidnapped?
We live in a banana republic, sir, where none of our rights, all rights that are justiciable in other areas, are not justiciable here. The poor man is even incapable of pursuing a case in court to the last. Myself and members of my organization are a victim of that. We wanted to register a new political party, Socialist Party of Nigeria. For 3 years, we were still in courts, and adjournment upon adjournment. Because the whole idea is that if they adjourn permanently, as a poor person, you cannot have enough resources to see the case through. So that only the path of mass struggle, you know, and social revolution can resolve this issue. Nigerians will be prepared to take this government up through mass protests and demonstrations.
All right. Without sounding as a way of inciting anyone to do anything in that regard, but there has to be constant engagement, civic engagement with the people and the government. Taiwo Hassan, the National Coordinator, Education Rights Campaign.
Thank you so
much.
Thank you for having me.
Wish you the very best in your fight for the children in the right way. Thank you so much.
Thank you.